Okay. Monday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the west coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is Metaphor Mondays on the After Show today. Of course, there are no similes allowed.
Yeah.
Well, it's relative, but let's try not to do them, okay? It's only metaphors. Hey, Wink, it's been another long weekend and even longer now that we lost so much sleep.
Yeah.
And I don't mean figuratively.
Right.
How are you doing?
Bearing the weather, I guess, yeah. It is, 12 degrees out? It's going to be another nippy day. It's going to be nippy all week. They're looking at maybe mostly in the teens all week. So this is the weather we're going to get. And hopefully it starts breaking into the 30s and 40s, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Mind to get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And of course, there are links to be able to contribute to the Netroots Radio cause. For some reason, they make us pay the bills.
Yeah, damn it. Yep.
You'd think like in the resistance, they would, they would allow a little bit of leeway, but they don't. And your generosity
I'm fiddly. So,
affects that. Thank you. Oh, I hear some stuff. I guess that's your chair or something.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing something.
Well, here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently, it's 48 degrees. I hate to admit it, but we're going to be going up to 74 today, and it's slight chance of rain. We do have a larger possibility of rain coming Wednesday, and then another rainstorm, but not a cold front. Looks like we may be, knock on wood, as they say.
Yeah.
Looks like we may be past the snow and the freezing. Looks like nights are going to be in the upper 40s, and days will, for a while, be in the low to mid 70s. So I'll take it. I'll take it.
Right.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Every time I've used a microwave oven, Wink, I've just got nothing but a hot potato. And I think that's what Kellyanne Conway's got now, that she came out and said that Obama was tapping Trump through microwave ovens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My God. And then when confronted, well, where's your evidence? She says, I'm not Professor Gadget.
Right.
I'm not in the business of evidence. My God. I don't know. I always like to play these brain games because I know that like people of a particular conservative bent in their reptilian genetics are incapable of it. But I like to play this like little brain game that goes, what if? And you've done this, like, what if Hillary was in a similar position? She'd be frog-marched to Leavenworth before even saying, but wait.
Indeed.
So I don't know. What was it that one of my more jaded, cynical relatives used to say? Oh, yeah, the fix is in. Sounds like it to me. How'd your weekend go?
Not bad. It went fast. Of course, they just fly by these days. But, it was all right. I had to work. But
did you miss an hour's sleep?
Well, yeah, I had to go to work late Sunday afternoon, so it wasn't too bad. I could sleep. I actually slept in Sunday till noon, which is very rare. But I said, man, get it. But I was up late. I was up to about 4, so I got about 7-8 hours, which is pretty good.
Which I was going to say is really just 11.
Yeah, it's normal. I guess, normal sleep. Yeah. But I normally get like 4, 5, 6. I'm in that 4 to 6 range, generally speaking. But to get 7, 8 is pretty good. So that was a good. So I got a good snooze in Sunday.
Well, of course, you know why they call it daylight savings time. Because calling it losing an hour of sleep, messing around with my circadian rhythm, you mofo, it takes too long to say. So they just shorten it to daylight savings time.
Exactly. Put a positive spin on it.
I like the idea of just like standard time. Standard time seems good to me.
Yeah,
But
works.
I have to tell you, I mean, I was into the idea of the time changes because, I did hate as a kid going to school in the wintertime in the dark and coming home in the dark. And, they
Right.
changed that. So at least you got a little bit of sun, one or
Yep.
the other.
Right.
But now as I've gotten older, hey, I got that circadian thing. I don't know if that's lizard genetics or what, but it's there. And you don't mess around with my hypothalamus. I'm telling you, mess around with my hypothalamus, and it just takes time to recover.
Exactly. Exactly.
No, I was just a zombie yesterday. It's because I got up fairly early,
Right.
and then I had my granddaughters here also. So there was that.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you're
And
toast.
up early for that. Well, got to
Yeah.
get the breakfast, then you got to
yeah.
do the lunch, then you got to
Yep.
do, you know. but other than that, it was a fairly good weekend, except for all the news that came out. Of course, we had some fired U.S. attorneys, one prominent one. David did bring up a very during Keg Run the Morning Show, did bring up a salient and pertinent point, and one that I wondered at a bit too. I mean, so where were all the Wall Street convictions in this guy's district?
Yep.
I don't remember any of them, But as we'll see in news today, he has gotten under the craw, or in the craw, or stuck in the craw of a few prominent personalities in the world, and that says something right there. In fact, why don't we tell you what we will be attending to today? And they are, because it is Metaphor Monday, and everything is a metaphor on Mondays here in the After Show. Trump dumps due process to go after all immigrants. Okay, I don't want an Muslim ban. I was just kind of like making it, like simple. But, really, I'm against all immigrants. Let's get rid of them all. Trump aides launch an attack against the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office as it readies a report on the proposed Trump Care bill. I call it Trump Care because I heard he hates it being called Trump Care. That's the one thing he doesn't want his name on.
Right. Right.
We could call it Wealth Care. I do like the Don't Care. Don T. Care.
Yeah.
Don't care. That's a
There
good.
you go.
And the Trump administration is attempting to halt the landmark climate change lawsuit that could thwart changes at the EPA. Breathable air, drinkable water. What are you, some sort of hippie?
Yeah.
Jeez. Hey, for the last half, we report that British intelligence warns UK political parties to watch for Russian sabotage and hacking like the United States experienced. And UKIP is going, really? The Ruskies are coming to help us? Woohoo! And, as I alluded to earlier, Vladimir Putin so despises Preet Bharara that the fired U.S. attorney has been banned from entering Russia since 2013.
Yeah.
All that, plus the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes community calendar and more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast with his ever so fine East Coastal Tubal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tubular elitism.
Yeah. We'll get that hopefully
It's
straightened
fine.
out.
This actually sounds a little bit more symphonic now, but.
Okay.
And his name is Wink, of course, and this guy all the way back over here on the West Coast with I'm an elitist, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. But my name is Justice, and we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular tear, in this specific part of the fabric of space-time. Because who loves you, baby?
Exactly.
I don't know. What is time? What is distance? What is mass? I don't know. We sure know what velocity is, though, don't we, buddy?
Yeah.
I'm right.
Yep.
You know something? Speaking of which, in relative time considerations, they keep talking about Trump years like dog years. Supposedly 7 years, which is actually scientifically that is a myth. Dogs don't equate to aging 7 years for every one that we do. But it sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds like it adds up. But in a sense, it does seem like dog years with Trump. But I think we need another metaphor. I really think so, Wink. Because what has it been now? 54, 52, somewhere around there, a little over 50 days.
Right.
And I mean, if we were traveling out into curved space and we came back, people would age and we wouldn't, right? Because of the anomaly of curved space. Somehow our existence has been flung into some sort of arc in curved space, and we're aging faster now than we ever have before. And you can prove that by how much how much time it feels like Trump's been in office. And people go, it's only been 52 days? I just had a baby and she's getting ready to be married now. That's what it feels like, buddy. Okay. Trump dumps due process. Yeah. I'm not going to go after just stupid Muslims. I'm going to go after every single immigrant that we have. Which is weird because, in a way, he's an anchor baby. You know that, don't you? Yep. Oh, I don't know why. I looked far and wide. You know, I did see this in Raw Story, but originally came from The Conversation, which is out of Australia. And, let me see. I'm sorry. They always put it down here at the bottom who did this, and in this instance, they have not. My gosh. Oh, I'm sorry. Here it is off to the side. Okay, Shobha Wadia is writing for The Conversation here. The U.S. Immigration Code, passed by Congress in 1952, rivals the tax code in its level of complexity. In January, President Donald Trump signed 3 executive orders on immigration that have made matters more complicated for immigrants and the lawyers and advocates who fight on their behalf. As an immigration lawyer and teacher, I've spent countless hours helping those in need and educating my community, which includes residents, educators, professors, international students and scholars, along with local government, about the contents of the orders and the guidelines released by the Department of Homeland Security in February and how they will be implemented. Specifically, the 2 orders on deportations and enforcement, both signed on January 25th, reveal that the government is making 3 major changes. First, the orders are making virtually every undocumented person a priority for deportation. Second, they seek to maximize existing programs that allow deportation of individuals without basic due process. This includes the right to be heard by a judge, present evidence, or challenge a charge of deportation. And third, pursuant to the February 20th memorandum, DHS has rescinded most documents that offered guidance on prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutorial discretion in immigration law refers to the choice made by a government official or agency to enforce or not enforce the immigration law against a person. It has been the central focus of my research and is a critical component in our immigration system. Officials must choose whom to prioritize for removal because they have limited resources. The government has also recognized other compelling reasons why a person might not deserve to be deported or deserve to be deported. For example, a person without papers who has lived in the United States for several years and has family ties, steady employment, or community leadership may temporarily be protected from removal. But do Trump's executive orders signal an end to this practice? Well, now everyone is a priority. DHS has rescinded the 2014 Johnson Priorities Memo, which provided a framework for determining who was a priority for immigration enforcement and articulated the factors that should be considered when making decisions about whether to deport someone. I think it's pretty simple for the people out there right on the line. If they're not white, make them go through a secondary, interview and then get their ass out of this country.
Exactly.
I don't know. You don't really need to add any more paperwork to that, do you now? See, this stack has thousands and thousands of pages about how to attend to human rights and equality and due process. Oh, what do they call it? Technicalities. And then this stack over here, which is so much smaller, that says if they're brown, if they're yellow, if they're green, their ass is out of here. For example, the memo instructed DHS to consider amount of time spent living in the United States and compelling humanitarian factors such as poor health, age, pregnancy, a young child, or a seriously ill relative. Now, the government is taking a hardline approach to immigration enforcement. You mean you have poor health? You're not the kind of American we want here. You're out. You're taking care of a seriously ill relative? I guess we'll have to send both your asses out of here. Oh, they're American citizens? You thought that, didn't you? You really did, didn't you? Goodbye. Well, that was in this reporter's opinion. Enforcement officials will also now target deportable immigrants who have been convicted of any criminal offense, parking ticket. Or, I guess more precisely, not showing up to pay for a parking ticket that went to warrant, maybe. Have been charged with any criminal offense that has not been resolved. Have committed acts that constitute a chargeable criminal offense. That sounds like you were not even arrested for it, but somebody thought that maybe you could have been. Nice. Have engaged in fraud or willful misrepresentation in connection with any official matter before a governmental agency. And I guess that would be having fake ID or fraud or willful misrepresentation in connection with any official matter before a governmental agency. I think maybe that's a level of projection because doesn't the president do that every single day? Doesn't Trump do this every day? Engage in fraud and willful misrepresentation in connection with any official matter before a governmental agency.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now that's projection. Abused any program related to the receipt of public benefits. We'll just let that go over to somebody else in the house. Are subject to a final order of removal, but have not complied with their legal obligation to depart the U.S. You're here and you're supposed to have a trial, but you're in violation of the order to get your ass out. Nice. Okay. Well, you're here. You showed up for your trial to show evidence why you should be able to stay, but you're violating the law because you're supposed to be out. I don't know. Catch-22, the Labyrinth. There's all sorts of stuff going on here, Wink. DHS guidance does not stop with this priority list. It goes on to suggest that any person without documents might be a priority. It repeatedly states all of those in violation of the immigration laws may be subject to immigration arrest, detention, and if found removable by final order, removed from the United States. Now, we keep talking about undocumented people, but there's lots of U.S. citizens who have been born here and have been actually here for generations who don't have papers, Wink. And because they don't have papers, and mentioned this story before, back during the Reagan years, with the El Segundo Linea that Ronald Reagan imposed. What was that? 50 miles, 60 miles from the border? Near Irvine? Pull everybody over like on the 405 in a checkpoint, a check stop. And my Hispanic brother-in-law driving for UPS got pulled over and was taken across the border and dumped in Tijuana. UPS truck left by the side of the freeway. Big Brown, come pick it up. Wouldn't let anyone know where he was. I mean, it was like horrendous. And it was a lot easier then, too, to get back in the United States after that, and it was still hard. And he was an American citizen born here. I just wink. Okay. Now it's on steroids.
Indeed.
The cumulative effect is fear that everyone is a priority. Despite major changes to enforcement, the guidance from DHS suggests that individual prosecutorial discretion may be exercised on a case-by-case basis and preserves three policies relating to enforcement. One pertains to sensitive locations and instructs DHS to avoid enforcement in places like schools, places of worship, and hospitals. They've already broken that guideline, Wink. In all three examples here. Okay, so they didn't do it inside the school. They did it when Dad was dropping the kids off. Or Mom was picking them up. And they've done it in places of worship. And they've done it in hospitals. The second is a guideline on granting parole to certain arriving asylum seekers after a credible fear interview has been conducted. When an asylum seeker is paroled, she is released from detention and able to pursue her asylum claim outside of custody, which I've also heard of instances where that has been violated. Well, we'll just have to hold you here in this. Well, it's not going to be like in a real prison, but we got like some chain link fence in this garage. Big like parking garage, and we put up blue tarps for privacies, but it's not really a jail. Don't worry, you'll just stay here until we resolve this. While I see the preservation of these guidelines as positive, the overriding message of the executive orders and implementation memos is one of speedy enforcement without discretion or due process. And of course, we know why this is. They've already voiced it. The only people that they think are covered by constitutional guarantees are only those who have been actually born here, except in some cases, even if you don't look the right way, you'll fall under the aegis of these punitive penalties. But after a while, you'll be let go. Because you are, after all, a U.S. citizen born here. But that's not what the Constitution says, Wink. In its pure form, it really means anybody anywhere in the world is covered by our Constitution, if we wanted to look at it that way, that everybody is afforded due process. And it certainly is true when people are walking around in U.S. soil. And how can it be construed that possibly, wherever anyone is in the world, they may be covered? Well, we do have these structures called military bases. And certainly that is where, there are certain parts of our legal system that are covered in a foreign country because of a military base. But regardless, anybody here in the United States, it doesn't matter if they're visiting here on a visa, they're a tourist, they're undocumented, they are scaling high rises in Manhattan to steal jewels or whatever. you know, because there's some sort of like weird French jewel thief, right? And they didn't have a permit to be here to be a jewel thief. I mean, it happens. Kind of a, slip through the cracks. They're all covered. When they take the French jewel thief off the side of the Manhattan high rise, they gotta like charge him with a crime, take him to jail, get him a lawyer unless he can't afford one by himself or herself, and whatever the case may be. Plead their case, adjudicate it, decide, and then, I don't know, then deport them. I don't know. I'm just saying that they're due process for everybody. It doesn't. But with all this American carnage going on, Wink, I guess we got to kick some immigrants.
I guess. It's weird. It is very
It's
weird.
the American way.
Yeah, I guess so.
Trump aides launched an attack on agency analyzing cost of replacement health care proposal. And this is by Reuters. WealthCare. Aides to U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday attacked the credibility of the nonpartisan agency that will analyze the cost of a replacement for Obamacare, as the White House sought to quell opposition from many Republicans. Yeah. Yeah. The CBO, or the Congressional Budget Office, which provides official estimates of the budget impact of proposed legislation, is expected to issue a report as early as today that will assess the health care legislation put forth by the Republican House of Representatives leaders. The report could influence sentiment toward a bill that is already under fire from both Democrats and many conservative Republicans, especially if it suggests the legislation would reduce the number of Americans with health coverage or that it would worsen U.S. budget deficits. Of course, the reason a lot of other more conservative Republicans are against it is because there's actually a semblance still of some insurance and health care for people. And they want to get rid of all of it. So there's Democrats who say, look, we better go single payer. And then you got some Republicans who say, health care? You're calling that a utility? It's a commodity, man. Commodity. Hurry up and die, Grandma. Hurry up. In a series of television interviews, White House Budget Director Mike Mulvaney and top White House economic advisor Gary Cohn said that the CBO is focusing on the wrong metrics with the estimates it will provide on the number of people who are insured. Cohn and Mulvaney said CBO should instead analyze whether patients can actually afford to go to a doctor. I love that. I love the folks at the CBO. They work really hard. They do, but sometimes we ask them to do stuff they're not capable of doing. And estimating the impact of a bill of this size probably isn't the best use of their time. I mean, they use a kind of mathematics where 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, 4 + 4 = 8. And look, in our, it's not our job to, present evidence. So in our situation, 2 + 3 could possibly equal 23. See how that works? 2 + 3 could equal 23, or it could equal 6, or it could equal 4. And the CBO, they use like an antiquated metric system, right, Wink? They just don't understand how it works in Professor Gadget. Clothes. God.
Yeah, exactly.
God. So, of course, they went on all the Sunday shows, and they're trying to trash the CBO. And, of course, CIA is trashed. And if the FBI steps up to the plate, they'll be trashed. But, of course, Paul Ryan, he was asked, how many millions of people are going to get kicked off of health care and insurance? And he goes, I don't know. It's up to them. And that's how he said it. He laughed. I don't know. It's up to them. And he, of course, we always finish the sentence for a person like Paul Ryan here on the After Show.
Right.
And when he said it's up to them, and we didn't hear him finish the sentence, and it was, and I wish they would soon.
Indeed.
Stories on the last half are particularly short today, so we're going a little bit over into our break period, but let's go to this last story. This is by the great T. Bog. Trump administration trying to halt landmark climate change lawsuit. Scott Pruitt. Did you know that they took the word science out of some aspect of the EPA's mission? Wow. Nice. The newly installed Trump administration is seeking to halt a federal lawsuit they inherited that could head off massive changes planned at the EPA. At issue is a lawsuit filed by a group of 21 youths against, or as some people call them, Utes.
Right. Exactly.
Against President Obama and various federal agencies tasked with protecting the environment for generations to come. Oh, I guess what they're saying is, well, this is a lawsuit against Obama. It's not a lawsuit against us. Well, you're now the government. Yeah, well, that's different. That was different. That was a Kenyan Muslim. And, what word are you? Are you guys like Russian white nationalists? Well, we're here. We're here now. I'm sorry. According to Business Insider, the suit argues that by failing to prevent climate change, despite evidence of the danger it poses, the federal government is violating their constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property. As part of their suit, the plaintiffs want the court to step in and force federal agencies to regulate carbon emissions and take whatever actions are needed to slow down or prevent climate change. I was in some ways we can say that, like traffic laws, for instance, especially traffic laws around schools, are totally predicated upon the safety and survival of the children that live in that area that have been hit by cars. And so laws were enacted specifically to, I would think, to manipulate future events. So when people say, well, where's the precedent for it? I would say something as simple as traffic laws where you got to slow down to 20 miles an hour in a school zone when children are present. And or the lights are flashing. Okay.
Yep, I think so.
I think that measuring with precision human activity on the climate is something very challenging to do, and there's tremendous disagreement about the degree of impact. So no, I would not agree that it is a primary contributor to global warming that we see, Pruitt said in an interview with CNBC. On March 7th, the Trump administration filed a motion asking for an appeal of Aiken's ruling, with a second motion requesting the trial be delayed until after their appeal is heard, Aiken being the judge in the case brought by the 21 kids, or youths. According to one of the plaintiffs, Alec Losnak, the government is stalling for time. The request for appeal is an attempt to cover up the federal government's long-running collusion with the fossil fuel industry, Losnak said in a statement. My generation cannot wait for another truth to be revealed later. Thank you. Out of the mouths of babes. All right, let's get to our Jim Hightower break. And we got a new one, of course, every Monday. And then Wednesday, we'll have another one up that'll carry us through the weekend. How do you like that? And then we'll come back, go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar, and then the stories of, a little bit of Russian here, a little bit of Russian there. You're listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Donald Trump, the amazing wonderkind of global luxury living, and now our nation's phantasmagoric fast-charging president. is proving to be a legislative magician. In his campaign, Trump's number one promise was that he would, quote, immediately repeal the entirety of Obamacare. Then, hocus pocus and abracadabra, simultaneously replace it with, quote, great health care for a fraction of the price. Wow, that's why his White House media operation calls him President Action, President Impact. But oops, it seems that the amazing Donald has abruptly learned that what magicians do is not magic, they just perform illusions. In other words, it's fakery. So Trump is now caught in the spotlight of reality, unable to produce a workable plan to repeal and replace Obamacare as he had so glibly promised. In fact, the GOP replacement scheme he's been backing would leave millions of people with no health care coverage while reducing the benefits and jacking up insurance payments for millions of others. Frustrated, President Action recently whined to a meeting of state governors that nobody knew that health care could be so complicated. Of course, by nobody, he meant that he didn't know. Therefore, no one could have known since he knows everything. But wait, in a truly amazing magical act, the Donald has now pulled a rabbit out of his hat. His new Trump Care plan, he brags, will guarantee that every American will have access to health coverage. Before you erupt in applause, however, notice the trick word he's using. Access. That doesn't mean you'll get coverage, you'll just get access to coverage, if you can afford it. It's the same as promising that everyone will get access to owning a private jet, just like Trump. This is Jim Hightower saying, see, he truly is magical.
If you'd like more of Jim Hightower's real populism, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter gives you the real lowdown on which corporations, by name, are doing what to the middle class, our environment, and our democracy. Each month, the Hightower Lowdown brings you facts you didn't know, along with actions you can take to fight back. It also comes with a sense of humor. Hightower believes we can fight the gods and still have fun. Plus, get this, it's cheap. Only $15 brings you 12 issues a year. For real populism, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. And thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, out past the Oort cloud, and way deep into interstellar space, and I don't know, for our purposes, beyond that too. Or, as we like to say, and beyond that too. Today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar is facilitated, as it is every Monday, by Chi-Town Kev. And he opens his diary today with ever embarrass your parents. And this is actually quite funny. I believe I saw this on Chris Hayes, In with Chris Hayes, Inners, where this fellow is being interviewed by BBC, and he's like an expert, and he's in his home office, and two of his kids like come into the room and start playing in the background where he has his set up. So I presume he's communicating with the BBC journalist through Skype, but quite funny. So I suppose that he might have been a little embarrassed. Mom had to come in. She's like trying to hide like, oh, I'm not really here. I'm on my knees. I'm getting the little kids out. They're toddlers too.
Oh,
it's
my
just
goodness,
so it was cute and hilarious. And
yeah,
poor dad. He's this academic, hitting the big time. You might make the comedy night shows. You might get like, a much larger coverage of his academe, if not otherwise.
Yeah.
All right. So Wisconsin Cossacks are starting up their group. So Cosmail Chris the Colodem, to let him know that you'd be interested in joining that group if you're in the area. Colorado Community has their Caffeinating Liberally meetup every fourth Saturday of every month. The one coming up this March is March 25th, and they meet at Common Grounds Coffee House, 44th and Vallejo in Denver from 9 a.m. to noonish at the table by the piano. So get a hold of Left Canada Colorado Tim if you'd like to show up to the Caffeinating Liberally event there. Mark your calendars. April 23rd, Navajo will be in town, and that town happens to be New York City. And April 23rd is a Sunday. They're going to meet at Spitzer's Corner, 101 Rivington Street in the Ludlow District at high noon. Cosmail Navajo to RSVP. The place isn't that big. It looks like to me they're taking it over, so you better let them know that you'll be there. Some of my fellow editors from Black Codes will be there. How nice. All right, also mark your calendars because Thinking Fella and Ojibwa are organizing the third Epic Glacier National Park meetup, which occurs June 30th through July 2nd. And a diary with important planning details is linked in the diary, and you should go there to find out what those are. I bet you get the 15 degree below zero sleeping bag, not the 15 degrees above zero sleeping bag.
Heck yeah.
Just do it. Trust me. And also, this is we'll hear more news as we come along, but apparently Bill in Portland, Maine, who runs the Cheers and Jeers section of Daily Coz, and also tweets out a little announcement of Kagro in the Morning Show, has been a bit under the weather, and he's been in the doctor for some tests and some other things. So we send out very positive vibrations for Bill's quick healing.
Yes.
But Netroots Nation's Daily Co's annual Cheers and Jeers dinner will be happening Wednesday, August 9th at 5:30 p.m. at a location to be determined. Cosmail Navajo to RSVP for a seat at the table. And they say at the table. You mean tables? And they'll determine where that space will be that they'll be meeting at tables. And it'll probably be a big event. And as always, like she says, within walking distance of the convention center for her. Because Navajo is stout and the rest of us aren't.
Exactly.
It's within hobbling distance for some of us.
For the rest of us.
That's usually not as far as within walking distance, I've found. It really is
at
a
least
drag.
twice as long.
It really is a drag. When I went to university, I would have classes and I went to really spacious campuses, acres and acres of campuses.
Right.
And when I first started off, I was an idiot, I'd schedule a class at one part of the campus, and then the next class gave me maybe 10 minutes at the most to walk to the other one. It was all the way on the other side. That might be, over a mile or more,
Right.
So, but I could do it. There, now it's I have to walk a mile. I'll see you in a couple of hours. Maybe I'll stop for lunch on the way.
Indeed.
All right. That is your Connect, Unite, Act Daily Co's community calendar for the 13th of March of 2017.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're moving on. Woo-hoo.
I might even call for a cab if it's a mile. I don't know. I might.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the situations that I was bumping up against in San Francisco. Is that I would, first I had to get to BART from my house, which wasn't too bad because I lived really close to a bus line. See, this is something else. I used to walk to the BART station, BART into town to Market Street, and then walk up the hill to the top of Nob Hill.
Yep.
Easy.
Yep.
Right? But then I was reduced to like taking the bus, down College Avenue to the Rock Ridge BART station, hopping on BART, dumping me off at Montgomery Station, right? And then sometimes I would take a cable car, but oftentimes it really wasn't easy because, they're already filled up. And the secret, by the way, to people visiting San Francisco, don't go to the cable car turnaround. Only tourists do that. And you wait forever, right?
Right.
What you do is like you go up a few blocks and, you can't do it in droves, of course, but there may be a place that you can like hop on. So just walk up the line wherever it is a few blocks. And when they come by, if there's a space, you just hop on.
Yep.
So sometimes I do that. And and the reason that I stopped like driving into San Francisco is I didn't want to spend the $11 to $14 to park, for an 8-hour shift, right? Because you add that up. And so then I was spending probably like $8 to $10 to have a cab drive me up the hill. What the hell? What the hell?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's no subsidy for, getting old and decaying, and you go from, being a marathon walker to, I don't know. What are we now, Wing?
Just barely getting across the road. If I can get across the road, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, that's another one that I've noticed too, is that I really have to plan, because even in a crosswalk, it's a little bit different here in Oregon, but in the city.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, that's where that's the big killer of old people.
Yep.
You get into a crosswalk and someone doesn't see you, and you can't scamper out of the way.
Right.
Scamper. Okay. Let's get into these last stories. Like I said, they're not terribly long, but we might as well get into them here. This next one is also by Reuters. British intelligence warns UK political parties. And the Nigel Farage people are going, the Russians are actually helping us? Oh my God, yes!
Yeah.
Okay. British intelligence has told political parties to protect themselves against potential cyber attacks, citing allegations that Russian hackers tried to influence last year's U.S. presidential election. Of course, this is Reuters. It is not that they tried. They did. Come on. Britain's National Security or National Cybersecurity Center, or otherwise known as the NCSC. They don't know how to do acronyms, Wink. Jeez. Okay. The NCSC, part of the GCHQ spy agency, said it had written to the leaders of political parties offering to help strengthen their network security, confirming a report in the Sunday Times. This sounds to me like one of those business models where like a virus protection company infects your machine with a virus, says, oh, well, we're here to protect you from that. Oh, you got one of those? Well, we can take that out for you. Here, it's only $49 a year.
Right.
Remember those? Sounds like that. Yeah. You will be aware of the coverage of events in the United States, Germany, and elsewhere, reminding us of the potential for hostile action against the UK political system. A letter from NCSC head Ciaran Martin said, attacks against our democratic processes go beyond political parties and can include attacks on Parliament, constituency offices, think tanks, and pressure groups, and individuals' email accounts, it said. And Fox News is going, really? We've been doing that for quite a while already. Maybe they need some help. We can help for a price. We do that now. Asked about the report, Foreign Minister Boris Johnson said, we have no evidence that the Russians are actually involved in trying to undermine our democratic process at the moment. You always got to wonder when someone named Boris says, Russians aren't involved. No, I don't see any evidence of that at all. Well, here it is. And, giant Russian nesting dolls. I see nothing.
Right.
Nothing. Boris. But what we do have is plenty of evidence that the Russians are capable of doing that. And there is no doubt that they've been up to all sorts of dirty tricks. Boris said on television's Preston on Sunday. U.S. intelligence agencies concluded last year that Russia hacked and leaked Democratic Party emails as part of an effort to tilt the presidential election vote in favor of Donald Trump, something Russia denies. Yeah, they deny it, sure. And the French government this month dropped plans to let citizens abroad vote electronically in legislative elections in June because of concern of the risk of cyber attacks. Well, see, it's a win either way week on this, right? If they're not able to actually influence the election in one way, they can keep people from voting, which also and obviously influences it in very much the same way they intended.
Oh, yeah. No question.
Yep. And so then you got these apologists. And who knew? I mean, it was all the old Soviet fighters. Maybe they all got turned. They might have.
Very strange. Very James Bondish. Yeah.
I know. Okay, so when I heard that Preet Bharara is like the Manhattan U.S. attorney, of course, one of the things that came up in my head was that, oh, well, he was there during Occupy? What? And like, there were no Wall Street people, like, gone to jail for things like, stealing people's homes?
Right.
So I did wonder at that, but there's been other instances where he fell in, extreme disfavor from people like Trump, people like Fox News, and others. And apparently, as a U.S. attorney, in his official capacity, he fell under, shall we say, extreme disfavor from one Vladimir Putin. And this is by David Edwards out of Raw Story. Preet Bharara, the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, who was fired by Donald Trump over the weekend, was so despised by Vladimir Putin's Russia that he was banned from entering the country in 2013. According to the New York Times, Russia banned Bharara and 17 other Americans in retaliation for U.S. sanctions over human rights violations. The Russian government reportedly targeted Bharara because of his prosecution of Victor Bout, a convicted arms dealer. Bharara, who is known for investigating officials, regardless of political party, also prosecuted 3 Russian nationals as acting as spies in 2015. Wow, I remember these. The arrest of Yevgeny Buryakov and the charges against him and his co-defendants make clear, more than 2 decades after the presumptive end of the Cold War, Russian spies continue to seek to operate in our midst under cover of secrecy, Bharara said at the time. Bharara was fired by the Trump administration on Saturday after he refused to comply with a request to resign. It was not immediately clear if Bharara was involved in any current investigation into Russia's interference in the presidential election. Now, this particular article, I should say, was yesterday. Because Elijah Cummings and others have come out and said, well, of course, there's only so much that they are able to divulge because of classification designations that they fall under. But they pose the question, more like a statement, that what was Bharara investigating about Trump? They didn't say that he was really, he wasn't investigating him about the Russians, but what was he? Was he doing that about the Russians? Was he doing about something else? And it also looks, Wink, more and more that through their stupidity, ineptness, whatever, that the Trump campaign and their aides and sycophants and Trump himself have opened up a can of worms, because these wiretapping claims is looking more and more that the FISA warrants were issued because, that server in direct contact with a bank in Russia that was in Trump Tower.
How about that? Yeah.
Was it Trump's server? Some people have speculated it was. But he also has Russian mobsters living in floors above him and below him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which kind of makes you wonder how that configuration got made up, right? Especially if he's beholden to Putin for bailing him out by the tune of billions.
Right.
So, like I say, whenever I hear about an accidental bombing by Russian forces of American-led forces, and a bunch of American-led forces got killed accidentally.
Yeah.
To me, that's, the big Goomba coming with the baseball bat or the axe handle and breaking a shopkeeper's, leg if it's really bad. Sometimes it's just that, smack the hand, break a few fingers.
Yep.
For not paying a bill on time. And we've seen that happen a few times, and I've often wondered, is that the case? But, well, tomorrow, folks, we get to visit with Chris Reeves, Tom Servo 433, for more news on what's happening in the Midwest, Kansas and Missouri in particular. We got some great content coming up here for the rest of the day. Of course, we got Tom Hartman coming up about 6 minutes after the hour. We'll listen to Japan Cake Soft and Easy in the interim while we do that. Democracy Now! Comes up after Tom Hartman, followed by Randy Rhodes. You got 2 hours of Randy Rhodes, and then we play Katie Speak, a reprise of her Saturday show, and that is then followed by the Tim Korumal Show, in which, surprisingly and coincidentally, Wink, I'm on today.
There you go. Yep.
We recorded the show yesterday, and I'm on it today. It's just, it's weird. It's weird how time and space works, and this plane of existence. Who knew? So I am just padding time here because usually we go way over.
Right.
Usually we do. And we'll be looking for whether the CBO, if they have already issued a report while we were broadcasting. We'll be looking for that. And, of course, there's all the news that's going to be. I'll just leave you with this, Wink, and listeners out there. Trump really didn't tweet anything this weekend, did he? Odd, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a little strange, yeah.
Just a little odd. All right. Well, we'll see you all here tomorrow. But in the meantime, stay listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.